Thank you for joining me this evening. I'm so glad that you guys have taken the time out of your day to join me on the show. Um, you know, it's Thursday. Here we are. Kind of a short week, which has been pretty awesome. Having just to work 5 days out of the week if you're still having to go to work. If you're working from home, I guess that kind of just blends in, so that sort of thing. But um, again, here we are coming back on the weekend and so fast. I love these sort of short weeks. They make time go by a little bit faster. They make the work week a little bit more enjoyable sometimes. So, yes, thank you guys again if you're watching along. So let's get all the particulars out of the way as we usually do. So if this is your first time joining us this evening, thank you so much, number one. And we are streaming live across multiple platforms. So if you're watching us on YouTube, right, or you want to, you can go check us out on our YouTube channel, and that is at www.youtube.com. The // made from scratch broadcast on YouTube. So do us a favor, if you're watching it there live, hit the like and subscribe button. We would really do appreciate it. We are trying to always build our viewership there, and we do appreciate comments or anything in there you want to drop it there on our YouTube channel. And hit the notification button. It'll let you know whenever we do have new lives or whenever we do schedule new lives during the week. And also when we drop new content. So guys, check us out on YouTube. Thank you so much if you're watching there. We are also streaming live. Oh, there you go. Look at it. Much love. Thank you, Eric, already. So again, we're streaming live now on LinkedIn, guys. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, do us a favor, drop it down in the comments. My man, Brian Shulman, brother, much love to you. Brian's awesome. If you're not connected with Brian Shulman, send him a connect. I don't know if he's at the limit yet, but send it anyway. Tell him I sent you. That way his connections will be full, and he'll have a lot of stuff besides doing content to take care of. So love you, Brian. You're awesome. And if you're watching us live on Facebook, we are streaming live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and on my profile. So if you connect with me on Facebook, I am at Gabriel Leal on Facebook, or you can check out our Facebook page, and that is at Made from Scratch Podcast. Get that one right, on Facebook. So do us a favor, hit the like button there, guys, and it'll give you notifications whenever we do schedule lives or whenever we do go live on Facebook. And again, if you're watching there, drop it down in the comments. I do appreciate it. Wendy Gahulia, guys, Wendy is killing it if you don't know. The Right Kind podcast is what she's created. She's been a guest host here on the show, and then she's also been a guest of mine. So if you're not connected with Wendy, connect with her now. Check out her podcast. And yes, I am promoting somebody else's show. I don't care. It's my show to do. So again, thank you so much if you're watching us on Facebook. And then we're streaming live on Twitter. And you can find us there at MFSB Live on Twitter. Again, if you're watching there, drop it down in the comments. Say hello, connect. Rachel, thank you. Lori, you guys are number one, awesome, beautiful. You guys make the world go round. So thank you so much, guys. Let me pull that one up. Look at that. Rachel, thank you, Rachel Beck. Lori Knudsen, guys, you guys are awesome. Last night's guest. If you did not watch last night's episode, go check that out. Adam rocked it last night. We had a really great time. He is awesome. You can also check out his website at www.thepodcast.com. You can go past episodes of his podcast. And yes, I'm promoting again somebody else. I don't care. It's my show. I can promote whoever I want. So, and then he had a live today on LinkedIn, guys. That was awesome. That was like, for me, another shout out to Adam doing his show today. He live streamed, and the gentleman that he was having on, sorry to say that he was doing his live in his house, and apparently some place in his house that was close to the yard. He had his yard, I guess the yard people that next door, whatever. God, it was so loud, but it was so funny because they were trying to talk over it. And Adam, to his credit, was a professional, did what he had to do. But again, it was funny to watch. And not that I digress, but I could keep talking. So, but let's go ahead and get started with this evening's guest. This guy is one of my top 10 when it comes to people who have added value along my journey in creating my voice. He is super awesome. He does his storytelling on Saturday, guys. If you're not familiar with that, one of the things that always interests me is the fact that he's always so open to connect, and his story is really interesting about what he had to go through and how he shares what he does every day, and his story. His story about having cancer and that sort of thing was really inspiring to me the first time I saw it, and it really stuck with me. So yes, Steve is again, I've given away my guess, but his name is Steve Sullivan, guys, and pretty incredible guy. So let me go ahead and just bring him into the broadcast, guys. Help me give a big welcome to my guest, Steve Sullivan. Hey, Steve.
Hey there.
How are you,
everybody? Woo!
Yes, everybody. So we are live, and let me go ahead and just pull up our little banner there, and then pull that comment down. Yeah, I like to get a little bit fancy. As you can see, last night I got pretty fancy on Adam's show. So
yep, exactly.
But again, this is the fun part of me being creative, and Wendy's already one of the first connections of mine. There you go, right?
Yeah.
How again awesome is that? Is that you're connected with Steve, and he reaches out to you and he tells you, connect you. Everybody's Team Steve. Yes, awesome. You have Team Steve. There we go. Look at that.
I know. You've got a lot of my good friends coming on. The only person I haven't really connected with is Adam, your guest from last night. So Adam, you and I should connect.
Yeah. So Adam's cool. Adam's fun. He is who he is, and that's what I love about what he does. Is there's no hiding his New York that just comes across, and that's part of his persona, and you can't take that away from him. But it's super awesome about it. Sorry, again, talking about Adam Posner, but okay. So, so let's start about with what one of the first things that I was that kind of got me started on my journey was the first time that I connected on LinkedIn and really put myself creating a story. And I've told the story a few times, but I'm going to tell it again. So I had put together a video, and I recorded, I wrote down all my thoughts. I wrote it down this big old long, huge page of what I wanted to talk about and everything that I wanted to say. So I did, and I put it in my work vehicle where I was at.
Yeah, exactly. Your truck.
And I started recording, and I recorded the whole video. Said, okay, cool. And then I watched it. I said, now I'm gonna do it again. And I recorded it for a second time. So there was 40 minutes putting into the video. And then I go to upload it on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn says, well, you only can do 10 minutes max. And I was like, oh. So that was the first time I was like, all right, cool. So I had to go back and redo it, cut it down, and I decided, what I wanted to really, really put in there and share. So I did. I redid the video, and I put it back out there. And yes, it was, again, I cut it down to 10 minutes, which is insane to think about even now to watch.
Nobody watched all 10 minutes, buddy.
But you put it on there, right? And I put it out there. And, I started getting just a few people who commented or whatever. I didn't have a lot of people. And then one of the first people that reached out to me was you. And, you kind of told me, hey, great video, bud. I kind of explained it's my first time doing a video. And you kind of cheered me on and told me, your story was really interesting and you need to share it more often. You need to go and put yourself out there. And I go, okay, wow. Not what I expected, but it was kind of something that got me going and wanted me to start doing it more often. So that's why I kind of attribute to, the fact that I wanted to, again, extend a big thank you for, I guess, kind of believing in me and doing that, because I don't think to tell you the truth, I don't think I would have done another video. I don't think I would have done anything after that.
That would have been our loss.
Yeah, and I would have been scared. And but again, it kind of pushed me in that one direction, and from there, baby steps, of course, learning the whole process and everything. And I decided that, you know, what you told me was true, and I was going to push my stories out there. So I started doing it more often and started getting a lot more people connected. A lot more people started engaging and saying, "Hey, that's awesome that you're doing this. You know, I love the fact that you're sharing your story." And I would always got to the point where I would tag you and tag people in here and that sort of thing. And then I remember you shared your video with me about your story, and I don't know if you want to go ahead and tell that again, but I would love to hear it again. You're a storyteller. You're if you haven't watched your Saturday stories with Steve, you're missing out on a lot of good stuff.
Well, thank you, Gabriel. But let's go back and talk a little bit about the whole idea of telling your story.
Yeah.
You know, that is something that I tell people all the time, because each person has been through unique experiences. They have a unique perspective, and all those things can come out in a story in a way that can just impact and touch people's lives. And
yes.
So if you don't get on and don't share that story, then you're not blessing people. So I'm so glad you came back and did a second, and now you're the shooting star, man. You are so far further than I would have ever expected when we engaged, I don't know, probably less than 6 months ago.
Yeah. So, and here's the great part about this. This is, for everybody who doesn't know, this is actually my first time having a real, like, face-to-face video conversation with Steve. And as much as we've talked back and forth through direct messaging and leaving comments on each other's posts or other people's posts, this is like our first time going, okay, you know, Steve's right here in front of me, and we're having a real conversation. So
that's your fault, Gabriel, because you're so busy. I had to come on your show to get that conversation in.
Well, I had been planning it, and I actually, like, I want to say about 2 months ago, I wrote down a list of people that I wanted to ask. And while I was thumbing through my list, I was thumbing through my book, and I said, I found my list again, and I said, oh, here it is. And I said, Steve Sullivan. Why haven't I had Steve on? I said, you know what? It's time to, it's time to get him on. So that's when I go ahead and said, you know what? I sent out the message to you, and you said, yeah, you would love to come on. And I was, at that point, I was thrilled, tickled pink, because, again, like I said, I've had, once I have everybody on, I'll re-release my list of 10 people who kind of made this journey happen. So, Russ Johnson's been on the show. You know, that's where this is why I said this whole circle of everything going on brings it back around, because I was connected to you and I was following you real close. That's where I found Russ. Was the first time watching you on his show.
Now, which one was that? Was that the one where he interviewed me, or was that the one where I turned the tables and interviewed him?
That was the one where I think he interviewed you, and and you we were talking. I remember what you guys talking about. You were actually a pirate now, and I said, awesome. So that's where I started again reaching out to a lot of people in that community. And now that community there that I got involved with has stemmed so many great relationships out of there. I mean, the people that I've had on that have come out of that little circle there. I mean, there he is, like Lori I had on because I met her through being on that show. And then Wendy was another one. And if you guys haven't seen Wendy lately, she is rocking it with her with her podcast. She's really getting it out there.
She's really sharing her expertise on children's books. So if anybody out there is thinking about writing a children's book, you should contact Wendy.
Yes. So, and again, at that point, I had her on. She was episode number 8. She was one of the first ones that I've had on. So she was one of the first 8 that I had on the show. And then on top of that, she was the first one that I actually had on to be my guest host. So
yes, I saw that one.
Yeah, so she had that on with Kristen A. Sherry, and they did a fabulous job. So I was thrilled, and if she's watching again, if she's anytime she wants to get in a jump seat, the offer is on the table, Wendy. Just so you know. But I digress. I'm here to talk about Mr. Steve Sullivan. So
talk about me.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that kind of interests me was the fact that you were again connected to that Kristen A. Sherry tree. So how did you get involved with her? What was the one thing that kind of said that kind of resonated, that her message, her books, or what was it that you said, I got to meet this woman and become one of her coaches?
That's a great story. Like many people on LinkedIn, you see people come across the wires and you say, wow, that's an interesting, their hearts resonate with you. So you start to engage. Mm-hmm. And I engaged a little bit with her because at the time I was actually trying to find a job.
Yeah.
And was looking for other resources to help me, move productively in that way and actually find a job. So exactly. The YouMap came on the radar screen because I think it had just been released. And, through Lila Smith, she brought me in contact with Lori, Kristen. I followed Lila. She went out and did a book launch with Kristen.
Yeah.
And I actually thought about getting in the car and driving all the way to Charlotte just to be there for that book launch. I at least joked about it a few times. Didn't do it then.
I got you.
But engaging with the YouMap process, I, like many people, tried to do it myself.
Yeah.
So, I got the book, I read through it, and as I worked through it, I realized there were questions I had that I couldn't answer from the book. I really needed a coach, and Lila stepped up to connect me with Lori. Lori generously gave of her time to help me in those early stages as I asked questions, and she's a great YouMap coach. And then along the way, I think I queried Kristen at one point in time about maybe taking her class. And then I got hooked up with Lori and worked through Lori, through the process. But then Kristen later came back to me to say, Steve, have you thought about being a YouMap coach? I think you'd be a good YouMap coach. So I jumped into that at the time thinking I'll become a YouMap coach because it'll help me have another way of looking at leadership and helping develop and mentor people.
Yeah.
And so I went through the certification process with Shar Auckland, Falguni, a few others that are slipping my mind, but it was a good little group to encourage one another as we learned the process. And then I launched as a YouMap coach, and I've had the pleasure of taking people through the YouMap process a number of times. And each time I take somebody through it, they gain insights. I have yet to have a client say, this is not worth it. All of them will tell you that they get so much out of it that it's worth doing it. And so I find a lot of strength and encouragement from those clients that are telling me, hey, I saw this insight. One of the examples, and I think I probably shared this on LinkedIn, but with one of the guys I was coaching, he had the achiever strength. Yeah. And achiever strength is somebody who really drives to accomplish things and complete goals. But like all strengths, I use the word, all strengths have like an Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. Depending on how you use that strength, you can find yourself getting tripped up by that strength in a way that you didn't expect. And achievers often put task in front of people.
Yeah, right.
And when I talked with him about it, he thought, I don't, Steve, I really love people. I don't think that's true. And I said, fine, well, think about it. And the next time we got together, he said, Steve, the light bulb went on. This last weekend, I was working on a project, and my 6-year-old daughter came up to me and wanted my attention, and I brushed her aside. And as soon as I did that, the light bulb went on. This is what Steve was talking about. And so then he went and asked his wife. He said, honey, do I do this often? And she said, you do it all the time. And so, that even cemented it more in his mind that, oh, yes, as an achiever, yeah, there's things I want to accomplish, but I also want to be an achiever at home and building that relationship with my wife and my children, which are my most important relationships.
Yeah.
And so, when people get that kind of insight, it can change their life. Because I know a number of men who probably have achiever strength who lose their families because they don't know how to balance that strength. Yeah. And that's where coming into a coaching situation with a coach, a YouMap coach can help you see some of those things and help put you on the right track.
Yeah. So this is one of again, that's an interesting fact that you're talking about, because again, I know this on a different level because I'm actually going through something very similar because again, I'm achieving to do what I'm trying to do here, but then I also have to try to find some kind of balance at home. And I get that there's a little bit of there's a little bit of brushback that I have, like with a relationship right now with my wife, but that's because again she gets frustrated with homeschooling 4 kids on top of trying to where as opposed to when if it's in a normal environment, of course you're taking the kids to school, then you're coming home and you can do the things that you need to get done, in peace or without interruption. Whereas now, can you imagine trying to do chores around the house and then having the kids behind you? Hey, I'm hungry. Hey, I need help.
And all those other things. Yeah, exactly.
So it's been a different aspect, but again, it's something.
And Gabriel, I wondered about that because you've done so much and you've achieved so much that you might very well have the achiever strength. And if you do, what I would tell you is if you're very task oriented and you do task lists and check them off and all those things that some people crazily do, what you've got to do is think differently about your task list. You've got to put on that list things related to the family. Like, my kid's got a baseball game. That goes on my to-do list. I need to spend an hour at night reading to my kids before bedtime. That goes on your to-do list. And when you put those on your to-do list, they'll help drive you to do those things that you should be doing and maybe haven't been doing, and find a way to balance, between business pursuits and family pursuits.
Exactly. So again, this is where, one of the things that I I like to spend a lot of time evaluating myself sometimes. This is where I'm at right now, evaluating where I am, number one, with what I'm doing here. And then again, what I'm doing personally. So I do see holes in what I'm doing, exactly what you're talking about. And these are things that I know that I'm going to have to address, because if not, it's going to cause a lot of tension. And to this point, my wife has been very, she's been very supportive. I'm blessed when it comes to that point. But again, as it grows, so is the demand for my time from other people. Because again, here I am. I do. I've walked through the spiel with everybody, but I do two shows. I got this, and I do a podcast on mental health. I again trying to write at the same time. I have to be a husband and a father to 4 kids, and then I on top of that, I do work 2 jobs. So
I wondered about that, because you were originally, when you started, working 2 jobs, so you still are.
I still work 2 jobs. So
probably 3 or 4 with your live shows.
So learning to time management has been a big, a big thing for me. So having time set as far as, hey, these are, I either have to find time to simplify my process with doing the show and everything, which I kind of have done that. And then, just doing, again, trying to find a medium with the family as well. And it is something that's kind of hopefully a little bit of be alleviated whenever school gets out. So school's about to be done. That will kind of release some of the pressure a little bit with, again, not the kids not being able to leave, but being at home all the time. But see, that's my podcast host, my co-host. Her name's Annie Lieb. She is a super awesome person, guys, if you're not connected with Annie. But like I was saying, I have to. I know that there's.
You're gonna have to find some balance. Is the bottom line. You recognize that now. For people who are very, again, task-oriented, list-oriented, one of the questions for them to reflect on is, how often do you put something on your list that has to deal with your family and your relationships?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, that's fallen off for me. So it's becoming part of the priority because again, I take times to reevaluate myself. I have to simply because charting from where I've started at the beginning of the year to where I'm at right now, I'm 2 different people.
Yeah, you've changed a lot.
I've changed a lot, and one of the things that I've learned about myself is the fact that yes, I love learning. Number 2, I do love getting my goals in order now. So that's and I didn't do that at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year. I'm going to tell you that right now. I have this woman to thank for kind of helping me put together SMART goals for myself and what I wanted to do. So this is what I do now. I channel it all together and I reassess when I do, and I kind of say, okay, what are the goals for the next month or 2 months or going forward? And the same thing with my show. I evaluate at every kind of interval of 25 shows, 50 shows, 75 is going to be coming up. And then that's at that point, I'll look at everything again and I'll go, okay, what have I learned? What can I improve on? What has worked really well for me? And that sort of thing.
And so, brother, I would encourage you, when you're setting those goals, to spend time coming up with family goals.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that
and I would encourage you too. You've got Wendy, you've got Anna, you've got even me, who would come on and can host your show for you for a week or a period of time to give you time to regroup and focus on some other things.
Yeah, here's the plan. And this is what I evaluated a couple of weeks back. This is why I've been introducing guest hosts into the show. So that so that at some point, the show is an entity that can continue without me. And that's where I wanted to eventually go at some point, is to have a regular guest host once a week. So that somebody doesn't have to go, I have to handle the load all week. But I know on Tuesday, Wendy will be doing the show every week. So for the next month, Wendy will do it 4 times out of the month. And then I got another one. Her name's Megan Rajan. She's been on before. We're in talks again for her to come on the show and co-host again. And
Great.
it kind of lifts a little bit of the load, like you're saying, because I at that point I just have to technically direct, which is for me a lot easier in the background. I can actually sit inside my house if I wanted to and technically direct my show, not have to be lights, camera, action, and everything else on. I just have to have communications with with my guest host. So these are things that I've been putting in the works in the first place, because I know at some point I cannot continue at this pace. There's some people that are like robots. Russ Johns is a robot. I call him a robot because he's at this point. We had a conversation last night where we were doing our thing. He's at 100 and almost at 170 episodes.
He is, but do not compare yourself to Russ.
No.
Russ is basically a single man. He's got his parents to take care of, and he loves. But that's different than having 4 kids. I had 4 kids. I know what that means in terms of time, involvement, and you don't want to miss that time. They will grow up so fast that this is the time to build those memories with them. When you can think about the fun things that you did when they were just 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And potentially even come back and tease them like I do my daughter now at 20. You remember when you did this with mommy's stuff? Yeah.
Right. So like this weekend, my daughter my oldest will actually become a teenager. So
that's scary, buddy. That is scary.
It is. So that's one of the things that I know, as this process has grown and I've grown, and I know I'm going to have to concentrate on that. But I know that on top of that too, that I have people that help me. This is what's really been so great about having connections. I have people like, let me see if I can find him. I have guys like this guy, Mike Padirano, and I had him on the show a couple last week, but Mike does a lot of behind the scene things for me.
Wow, great.
Yeah, he helps me out tons load. I mean, I've had guests on because of him. So I attribute to, he's kind of like I guess you would call my executive producer in the background, just finding these sort of things.
Yeah. So those are key people to help you along the way. But just as I challenge you to tell your story, let me throw another challenge out to you as a father.
Yeah.
The greatest compliment I ever got was from my daughter. At 19 on my birthday, she said to me, Dad, I've never had to question your love. That's the kind of father you want to be. And that's what I challenge you with your kids, that when they grow up, that they can look back and say, I never had to question that my dad, Gabriel, as awesome as he is,
never.
Wow. Yeah, that they know that you love you. That's
floored me. Because again, I think that's what really and truly, when I go back and I evaluate things, going beyond just what I'm trying to accomplish, but what I ask everybody on my show, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, and what do you want to be remembered for? I ask this of every single guest, and yet I've never asked myself that. If that sounds so,
good question.
Yeah. So you guys are getting. Let me play it now. I've never asked that. My own question that I ask every single one of my guests, I've never asked myself. So, wow. Again, Thank you. I wouldn't get this stuff if I wasn't doing this show. So
if we had a one-to-one conversation like we are now, I would still encourage you the same way I am now. It's just we're doing it live in front of who knows how many people, and
exactly.
this is like reality TV. They get to
Yeah.
look over the shoulder and eavesdrop and all those fun things you do in a restaurant.
And again, so this is why I tell people why I was genuinely blown away when you reached out to me, because again, I had never had that. And on any kind of social media. I mean, and I had written blogs before, and I've written things before, and I had I would have friends comment, but I've never had a stranger just say, "Hey, what you're doing, what you're sharing is really important. Keep doing it." And that's why, as I do this now, I want to pay it forward for somebody else, and I want to build the opportunity for other people to have a voice. That's something that I'm working on in the background, is finding people who have been through a lot of emotional stuff, been through stuff that me or you would go, oh, wow, we would be blown away because the environment that they were in. And I push to find these interesting people, and Mike helps me do that. And to bring them here and share their story, because I think that, number one, like you, I've taken the mantra of what you've told me, and I tell people, you need to tell your story. It touches somebody, it resonates with somebody, and it is one of the greatest pieces of advice that I've ever received. And hopefully I'm doing a pretty good job paying it forward, and I will continue to with every single show and every opportunity that I get to reach out to people, because again, I've had tons of conversations with people that I don't even bring on the air, that we just, again, it's about the connection and the relationships, and I have such fun. This is why I know that I was born to do this. And I will, and I'm going to find, I will, that's my challenge, is to find now the balance to continue to push and create this whole thing. Because again, I know for a fact that I've had friends who their fathers were very successful businessmen, spent, provided for their kids beyond their wildly dreams, but they were absent because they were always working. I don't want that. I'll tell you that right now. That's one of the things that I know. That's why I said I have to push myself to kind of involve myself back into my family life. And I had this conversation with Annie too on the show whenever we were talking about this. This is kind of where I knew I had a glaring need, because I said to myself, this is something that I'm learning as I go along, because I never envisioned myself in this spot right now. If you would have asked me 10 months ago, would I be hosting a show, I would have laughed at you and said, you're nuts. No way. And yet here I am doing this now. But now that I'm here in the moment, again, be present.
Yes, make the most of it.
Make the most of it. And again, learn. I'm trying to learn and adapt. Like I tell everybody else, be proactive in the change in your life and be proactive in what you're doing. And that's what I'm trying to do. Be proactive in, being here, and eventually I will get my wife on. I've been trying to bug her for a while.
Hey, I have tried.
So Wendy's asking Steve Sullivan, if you had a do-over, what would it be? Nice question.
A life do-over.
Yeah.
Life do-over. Man. I've had so many twists and turns in my life.
Yeah.
Some within my control and some not in my control. To this day, I regret losing, my first wife.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't tell the story prior to that, which is the cancer story that, as a young man, as a father of two, I was in the hospital. I was diagnosed with leukemia. I went through the treatment process. At the end of it, I thought everything was good. I relapsed,
Yeah.
went back in for more treatment. And the doctors were honest with me at that point in time. Steve, you got a less than 5% chance to be alive in a year.
Mm.
And they also told my wife, prepare for his death.
Oh, wow.
And so, she was my closest ally and friend through all that cancer treatment. And it was one of the reasons why, in a sense, I wanted to live. I thought about her and thought, who's going to take care of her? I thought about my sons, who's going to raise my sons?
Mm-hmm.
And so by the grace of God, I did live. Unfortunately, she took that news that he was going to die and sought support elsewhere and entered into an inappropriate relationship with another man, which ultimately destroyed our marriage. And it was devastating to me because one of my reasons to live was for her and the kids, and now, boom, they're
It's gone, right?
they're gone. And so if I could go back, there's a way that I could fix that. I potentially would, but the same thing is it takes two to tango, and I tried really hard to try and salvage it.
Yeah.
And ultimately she didn't want to do it. So
Yeah. So that's the thing about real life. That's the thing about when people talk about how their experiences can help somebody else, because there's somebody somewhere struggling with the same kind of issues in life where, hey, I have a friend now, and his wife has cancer, and he's had a few struggles, but I kind of encourage him to say, hey, it's awesome that you're doing this, staying by her side, and that's got to be hard because they're fighting for their lives, and
they are. And what the sad thing, what a lot of people don't realize is there is X number of relationships that do not survive a battle with cancer. Whether that's because the person who has cancer, like in my case, everybody's focused on them and giving them all the attention, and the poor spouse is being neglected and maybe expected to be the support aid and some of those things, and so their needs don't get met. Or they expect the person to die, so they emotionally distance. And then, once you made that step away, do you want to step back to somebody that you think might not be alive in a year?
Yeah.
But yeah, to even the surprising thing is the other day I was talking to my oldest sons, and they told her, or she told them that was her biggest regret, was having divorced me.
Yeah. Wow. But here's the thing about what we're talking about, and for everybody, this is why I tell you, number one, I love live streaming. You get all the realness, the real emotion. You get everything that goes
the
along.
Whole world hears it. Yes.
The whole world hears the answers, right? So here we are. I open myself up. I'm talking about me and my relationship with my wife. Steve's telling us about his story. So
it's Wendy's fault.
Yeah, it's your fault, Wendy. That just means you're a good interviewer.
But let me continue that story a little bit, Gabriel, because I know other people have gone through it, and as I mentioned, it was devastating, and a lot of people feel that. I felt totally betrayed.
Yeah.
Through the process, it put me in one of my darkest periods of my life, where mentally I was constantly flooded with negative thoughts, destructive thoughts, whether it was trying to kill myself, trying to kill her, trying to kill him, maybe go get a bottle and drink myself into a stupor.
Yeah.
All the negative type of behaviors that such a hurt can trigger, and then fighting those is a challenge. But here's the lesson I learned from everything I've gone through. I've always been able to learn a lesson. And the lesson I could take away from that is the road to healing is through forgiveness. Once I realized that I needed to forgive her, now, that doesn't mean forget what she did. I acknowledged what was done. I acknowledged the hurt. I grieved and cried a little bit over the hurt. But then I told myself, I'm going to pardon her.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it go. And once I let it go, it freed me to look forward.
Wow.
And to move forward in a positive way. And eventually, 4 years later, after the divorce, I married my second wife, Cindy, and we're coming up to 26 years of marriage.
So wow. Listen, so there's, again, for those people who are maybe going through that situation or in the process of going through a divorce, even if there's no kind of underlying circumstances with like cancer or anything, but going through that process in itself, there is a silver lining that if you let go of that hate or the anger or the frustration or whatever it is, whatever that's pushing you back, there's a way to come out on the other side. And
it's through forgiveness, man. If you don't, the only thing it's going to do is destroy you. It's not going to destroy the other person.
No, exactly. And I always, in times of toughness like that, or when you think that you're losing stuff or like this, I always think of, and I'm a big, my thing is religion and spirituality. So I always go to the book of Job, because Job,
that's a great book.
The book of Job was about him losing everything, and he had multitudes, everything. And it happened with
20 children.
It happened with God's permission.
Yes.
Remember that. So, but why?
Because the devil charged what?
Yes.
The devil said he's only being faithful to you because you're good to him.
Exactly. And
take away that goodness and watch him curse you.
And what did he do? He came out, and God gave him multitudes more than he had once he got past everything.
But the real key to that whole message of Job was at the end, where it talks about, I heard about you, but now I have seen you and I repent.
Yes, right.
Once he experienced truly the presence of God, God made himself real to Job in a way that Job couldn't do anything else but say,
you're here.
I repent. And then they embraced.
And boom, right?
And then God restored everything to us.
So you can again, people, even in your darkest hours, even in the lowest times of your life, know that there's hope. And again, if you don't know how to find that hope, reach out to somebody. Always there's
reach out to me. I'll be glad.
There's a friend. Yeah. So hello, Angie. How are you? Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Hi, Angie.
So,
I have to say hi to Ruhina Cabal. I'm probably not even pronouncing your name correctly, but I had a great conversation with her today earlier, and she said, I'll be asleep. I'll catch you on replay. So I promised her to say hi.
Yes, there you go. You'll catch it on. There you go. So Emily was asking, how did you get out of the negative self-talk? Were there some tactical things that you did? What a question.
The way I got out of it was simply through forgiveness. I mean, you have to forgive yourself. It's not just forgiving what the other person did, because in every situation, it takes two to tangle. It takes two to screw up. And I can look back and say, I should have been more sensitive to her coming out of the hospital than I was.
Yeah.
You know, when I came out of the hospital, what was my mind going on? It was defaulted into that male provider mode. I need to get back to work. I invested a lot of hours in work to make up some financial stuff that we didn't have during that break. And I wasn't in tune with this whole realization that, yeah, the doctors had said to her, prepare for his death.
Yeah.
I kind of learned that later. And so there might have been things I could have done early on that I didn't before it was too late. And so, yeah, I have that guilt or those failures that I had to forgive myself for, as well as hers.
Awesome, right? And I hope that answers your question. I think that was a pretty good answer. So let me ask, of course, the question again that I ask every single guest that comes on the show.
We're getting to the end of the hour. So
it's already, here we go. We're going so fast that we're already at 54 minutes. So here we go. The question I ask every single guest that comes on. So when the book is said and done on Steve Sullivan, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind? And what is the one thing that you want to be remembered for?
I value so much my children that, you know, I want, and I've been blessed to live long enough to see my sons grow up,
Okay.
and to see them mature into strong men that, you know, I like to believe some way I had an influence on that.
Yeah.
And I want to, you know, I'm constantly encouraging them to be good husbands, good fathers. And so first and foremost is the family legacy, you know, that's coming from a foundation of faith.
Yeah.
You know, I love touching people's lives. You know, if I go out and lots of people have in some way been blessed by me, that is the kind of legacy I want to leave.
And that's that, you know, and again, it's sometimes as simple as that, right? Like Wendy, I know her answer is she wants to be remembered for kindness. You
Definitely.
know, kindness.
Just like Jacqueline Way, I'm sure is saying.
Right. You want to be, you know, because again, here's the thing is, you know, again, like I said, I've never asked myself like out in the open that kind of question to, you know, what kind of legacy, what do I want to be remembered for? And in a way, I think that's what's been driving me to do this, is to leave a legacy behind. And hopefully I want to be remembered myself for somebody who's just been, who's caring and compassionate, and again, wants to be a person who is remembered for sharing whatever I have, whatever God gives me, and paying it forward to somebody else. For me, that's one of the things that I concentrate on.
Gabriel, remember this, because I've heard this from a number of men that are older than me, which is hard to believe. You know, I'm really old. Hey,
there you go.
That when they think about their lives, it's not how big a business they built, how many accomplishments they actually did. The one thing they wish they had done more was spend time with their family.
And you know what? That's really been something perspective wise for me that I know I have to embrace, because again, you know, I can remember being a kid, and my parents were my father was an entrepreneur in you know, their family business, so he was away a long time. Because they were working a family business, they were always having to be on site, do the work, and that sort of thing. And I remember sometimes what it was like. not seeing my dad all day long. I don't want to be that again. I don't want to be remembered for that.
Yeah, you definitely don't. And I know I've been a little bit hard on you tonight.
No,
but take that in the spirit of a father.
Yeah.
Because I've told people this when I interact with people, especially millennials and younger. It's almost like the father mode goes on. I see you as my children, as my sons and daughters, and I want you to be successful.
Yeah.
And if you're up there a little bit closer to my age, like me, then you're my sister.
Yeah.
And I still want you to succeed.
There you go. Right. Awesome. So, wow, this has been a real eye-opening show. A lot different than I thought where it would go. But again, this is why I love doing what I'm doing right now. Because again, here it was. Last night was a whole different vibe. Tonight was another vibe where I feel like I've kind of grown a little bit.
Awesome.
Because again, I think we've touched points that this is why I tell people I like to bring people who are going to bring value. And my whole point is not only to help somebody else learn from it, but for me as well to learn a lesson or two from somebody that I have on. So yes, you've kind of schooled me a little bit today, Steve.
Well, I'm thankful for that. That's more important to me than coming on here and telling people all the great things that I could do for them. If they wanted to use me as a coach or whatnot.
So, but that's okay. I'll do that for you. So guys, if you're not connected with Steve Sullivan, he is a leadership coach. He is a coach who can get you in. Again, he's coach. Guys, you're seeing a live session right now of what he can do. So if he's doing this for me, just imagine what he can do for you. So go check out Steve, connect with him on LinkedIn if you're not connected. And, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Steve. It was a true fun. I had a great time.
And it was awesome. You're right. If you weren't ending the show here at this hour, if you were being Brian Shulman, if he's still on, we'd be going for another 2 or 3 hours.
Brian, let me tell you what. Brian is a interesting person.
Oh man, I love Brian.
Again, I tell everybody that if you're not connected with Brian Shulman, connect with him. He is whenever we get, because again, you can see and feel the passion about what he's talking about, and he just goes and that if I have to, I kind of step back.
He'll never stop, man. He just keeps going.
So Brian, much love, my friend. Steve, thank you so much for joining. Everybody that's been joining along, Wendy, thank you so much. Angie, sorry, Jonathan Kimbrough, thank you so much. David Munford, you're as always. David's been a guest. Emily, Annie, you guys are what. Maureen, thank you so much, guys. You're what drive the show. Rachel Beck, thank you so much. You guys are.
Did Lila ever show up?
No, she didn't. But I'm gonna get her.
I texted her today. I twisted her arm to try and get her to come on as a guest to surprise you.
Oh.
But in the communication with her, she said that would be great. She'd love to do it, but she had something else there was a conflict.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it. But again, I will snag Lila on the show at some point.
If not, invite me back, and I'll find a way to drag her on.
That's a mission for me now. So, when I put my sights on things now, I tend to get what I want, and because again, I'm focused. And thank you, Annie, for teaching me that. So, guys, thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey this evening. Thank you, Steve Sullivan, for coming on the show. All the gratitude in the world, guys. I will catch you again tomorrow night, 7:00. You know where I'll be. Same bat time, same bat channel. I will be on with Kira Betty, and she is awesome. She's another former pirate. She was actually on Russ's show, and that's where I met her. And it's going to be a little bit different for her because she's in a whole different time zone. So it's like 5:30 her time or 5:00 in the morning her time. So all the gratitude for her. It'll be Saturday.
Young and perky.
Yeah. So I'll be ready to go tomorrow evening. So guys, thank you again so much. Thank you, Steve. I've had a blast. So I'll catch you all guys tomorrow, 7:00. Steve, just hold tight for a second. Everybody else, I'll catch you tomorrow night. Bye-bye now. Well, where did you go? They don't even have my banner. Look at that. I'm not even set up properly. What kind of show do I have where I don't even have everything set up? Usually I have my outro ready to go and I just go, hey, bye everybody, and I'm out of here. So again, here it is. It's that fast. So bye everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.